Hi, so this video is going to cover the ablative absolute. I'm going to talk about what the ablative absolute is. I'm going to give you a brief overview of how participles are formed, which should be review for you. I'm going to talk about how to form the ablative absolute in Latin, and then how to translate it into English. So first we're going to talk a little bit about what the ablative absolute is. Quite simply, the ablative absolute is just going to explain what the circumstances are under which your main clause, the main idea of the sentence occurs. So for example, the ablative absolute is going to answer the question of why an action might be happening, or when it might be happening, or how it might be happening. In Latin, it's going to consist of a participle, which is just a verb acting like an adjective, and a noun, and both of those are going to agree with each other. It's always going to be in the ablative case, both the participle and the noun. And the noun is always the subject of the participle. So quick participle review just to make sure all this still makes sense. Participles, again, are just verbs that are going to act like adjectives, and they're going to be describing nouns. So for example, I saw the sleeping boy. Sleeping, the verb to sleep, is changed to sleeping to describe the boy. So what boy did you see? The sleeping one. While running, the girl dreamed of Latin class. Who doesn't? So running is just, again, a participle of the verb to run, and it's just describing girl. I opened the closed door. What door did you open? The one which is closed, the door having been closed, etc. There's another example down there to help out. So the participle formation in Latin. The perfect passive participle, which is the one that you're going to see most often with the ablative absolute, is formed by just taking the fourth principal part and putting it into the case of the word it describes. Remember, the fourth principal part is an us, a, adjective, so you're going to use first and second declension endings. The perfect passive participle is always going to be translated having been verbed or verbed. And remember, this is an adjective form. So for example, I see the emperor having been praised. Which emperor? The one who has been praised. Also, I see the praised emperor. Both praised and having been praised are the participles. Both describe emperor. Both would go in the accusative here because it's the direct object. Okay. The other main participle is the present active participle, and that's a little trickier. You're going to form that by just taking the second principal part of a verb, dropping the re, and adding ens entis for the nominative and genitive for all genders. Portans, portantis, portanti, portantem, portante. The one trick here is that with fourth conjugation verbs, you're going to add ens, entis. So instead of audins, it would be audiens, audientis. And again, this is just going to use third declension endings. Is, em, ace, ibus, ace, ibus. Translation for the present active participle. As you remember, the present active participle is just translated verbing or while verbing. So you can see in the sentence below, ambulans puer veritatem invenit. The main idea is the boy finds truth or found truth. And ambulans just describes which boy we're talking about. So the walking boy, the boy while walking, the boy who is walking, all of those are fine. Okay, ablative case always explains the circumstances of an action. The how, the why, the when, the where. He fights, and you can see in the first one, Gladio, with a sword. How does he fight? He uses a sword. He fights in the summer, pugnat aestate. When is he fighting? In the summer. So you put it in the ablative because that's the time that he fights. Pugnat ira, he fights with anger. Again, anger is what he uses. It's the how. So if you combine these two ideas, so a participle and noun, and then an ablative case, you're going to get an ablative absolute. So dormiens magister just means the sleeping teacher. Now, if you want the sleeping teacher to be the cause, the when, the why, the where of the action, you put that in the ablative. Dormiente magistro. And that, again, is going to just explain circumstances. So, you can see the sentence below. Dormiente magistro discipuli ab schola concurrunt. So you know from the second half of the sentence that the students ran from school. Now, the dormiente magistro explains the how, the why, the when, the where of the students running from school. So a couple different ways to translate it. You could translate it literally as with the teacher sleeping. Perhaps you want to say since the teacher is sleeping, although the teacher is sleeping, while the teacher is sleeping. And again, those all explain the why of the students running from school. Let's try another one. Audita verba. So those are just the heard words, or the words having been heard. So if you put this in the ablative, it becomes, you're just going to explain the circumstances of the main action, the why, the when, the where. So here, auditis verbis, so the words having been heard, the students ran from school again. So is that the why, the when, the where of the action? Well, let's look. So the multiple ways of translating that are with the words having been heard, since the words had been heard, although the words had been heard, after the words had been heard. Now, with, again, is the most literal. Since is explaining cause. Although is circumstances. After is time. Any of these are fine, depending on the context of the sentence. Every once in a while, you're going to have just a noun-noun ablative absolute. In these cases, there's a verb to be implied. So, for example, duce Caesare, Caesar and leader. So the leader, Caesar, explains the circumstances under which the action happened. Roma vicet omnes. Rome conquers everybody. So with Caesar as leader, when Caesar was leader, although Caesar was leader, with Caesar being leader, all of these are fine. But the idea here is Caesar and his leadership are the cause of the main action. So this ends the video. If you have any questions, please email me so that I can go over them in class tomorrow, or just post them on the bottom of this page. See you tomorrow.